reason why it is so lopsided, and the reason why there are so many problems as it relates to interpreting history, is because history is taught episodically, in episodes. But you never see the whole picture. And I'm very much into holistic knowledge, holistic study. Very much into it. And so, let me talk to you God to God. 3150. Ancient Aura got the phenomenal piece of our brother Huey P. Newton. See, because I like to rock us, because I'm black first. So let me talk to you God to God. Let me talk to you on a level that we can now begin to understand, because I think that this is one of the challenges. Episodic history, and we're going to go deeper into it next Tuesday on our webinar, but episodic history basically is when you're dealing with episodes. People, person, places, things. You're dealing with it in isolation. You don't know what happened before it that made it happen, and you don't know what happened after because of the result of what happened. So there is not a continuity in knowledge and wisdom and understanding. And when I came the other day and I spoke to you about Adolf Hitler, and I spoke to you about the swastika, when I spoke to you about what he had done in Europe and in the world, that was an episode. But I didn't talk about what happened before that would have made it happen. And I didn't talk about what happened afterwards. Okay? So what I'd like to do now in this time that we have is I'd like to put it together in a way that you can place things within relationship to understand exactly what it is that we're talking about. Because you cannot understand Adolf Hitler. You can't understand what he did. You cannot understand. And by the way, don't get caught up in Adolf Hitler. He was a problem. But it was the people that supported him that's the problem. See, even with current history that we're dealing with now, we're always trying to blame somebody. That person, that person. And I understand. I'm not going to use no names, but you know who I'm talking about, the former president. We want to say it was him, it was him, it was him. No, it wasn't. Look at what's going on now. He's not president no more, and it's still going on. So let's be real about what we're facing as a people. This is not about a one person. This is about a group of people with an Ice Age mentality, with an evil streak, a sense of cruelty that they are excited by causing pain to people. Now, I know it's hard to understand that. It's really not easy. Because many of us as humane beings come from a perspective that, okay, if we make a mistake and we hurt somebody, okay, we apologize, we move on. But you're dealing with a people who, when they cause pain, that excites them. That invigorates them. That makes them want more. They thrive off that vampiristic, cannibalistic mentality to feed off of other people. We think they're sorry. We say, what's wrong with them? No, they wonder what's wrong with us. So we have to understand that Adolf Hitler, evil, horrible human being. But there was a whole bunch more that was just as evil, and they hid behind him and let him be up front to do his thing in order for them to do what they wanted to do. And nothing could be clearer in this syndrome than what has happened specifically in the United States over the past 4 years, 5 years, however you want to look at it. So episodically, we have to go back. And again, I could take you back even further than where I'm about to take you, but time doesn't allow me to do that right now. So let me present to you a concept. To understand all of this, I want to take you back to 1884, 1885, to a Berlin conference that was held in Germany. It was brought together by one of the administrators of the German government by the name of Otto von Bismarck. And what Otto von Bismarck did was he decided two things. He was going to carve up Africa. And he was going to create peace amongst Europeans, because see, Europeans in Africa back then in the 16, 17, 1800s, they were clashing into each other in Africa. The French, the Germans, the Italians, the British, French, they were bumping into each other and they were fighting each other. Europeans fighting Europeans over enslaving African people. So what this was meant to do was to carve up Africa so that every nation knew their boundaries. So they politically carved it up, and Britain got countries like Kenya, Nigeria. France got Mali. France got countries in Africa that they carved it out politically. Germany got the southern part, which is today we call Namibia. It was once called Southwest Africa. And Italy tried to get something. But the Berlin Conference was held in 1885. And in the Berlin Conference, in carving up Africa, the one thing they don't tell you is that, yeah, there were European countries that got parts of Africa, and there were those like Austria-Hungary that were just there to participate, to watch what happened. But the United States was there too. But it's called being present without portfolio, which means that you're not going to be part of this. You're not in the running of what's going on, because America didn't want it. But America was there to tell people, keep your hands off of Liberia, because we want their rubber. Okay? Firestone, Goodrich. Okay? Wheels, rubber. Okay? They said, no, we want that. And so that's why America was there. Not to get a country, but to make sure nobody touched Liberia. Okay. They carved up Africa. But the problem is that there were countries that were very upset that they didn't get any. There were countries very upset that they did not get part of Africa. Okay? And Germany wasn't happy with what they got. Italy was really upset with the fact that they didn't get anything. The only thing that was left after that was Ethiopia and Liberia. Everybody knew, don't touch Liberia, Ethiopia, but nobody could go into Ethiopia because the topography, the way Ethiopia is, they've got mountains and huge ambas where there could be villages on top of mountains, flat top mountains, where there were villages on top of these mountains. Nobody could get there because Ethiopians were shrewd warriors. But Italy tried anyway. And in 1896, there was a war called the Battle of Adwa, where Menelik II met the military of Italy and devastated them, beat them from one side of their battleground to the other, just stomped them in the ground and made them leave Ethiopia. Okay. Ethiopia left, but still got their eye on, Italy left, but still had their eye on Ethiopia. And by then, Ethiopia had developed and was in the process of developing fascism. Fascism existed before Nazism. In fact, Nazism is based on fascism. And Adolf Hitler was a follower of Benito Mussolini. In fact, he admired him so much, he and Benito Mussolini was arrested and put in jail on the same day, 1925, for trying to overthrow the government. So this Berlin Conference carved up Africa. And there were European countries that were very upset they didn't get anything. That was the cause of World War I. Let's get it straight. So we understand what caused World War I. Now they talk about the Archbishop Ferdinand. No. It was Europe was fighting each other over the riches of Africa and the world. And there were certain countries like Britain and France and Germany and Belgium Because before the Belgian conference, before the Berlin conference, they had the Belgium conference. Now geographically, Belgium is right there underneath the Netherlands, just above France, geographically speaking. And so, when this happened, the Berlin Conference of 1885, and then now you have this concept of European countries being upset they didn't get part of Africa, that's going to lead to World War I. Something's going to happen in World War I. It's going to be the advent. Remember now, we ain't got the cars that we have today. Now cars are coming into existence. This is why America say, Ford said, don't touch Liberia, because that's where you got your rubber for your tires. For the cars that he was trying to build, they were in the process of doing it. Airplanes. Now we're up in the air. They were used for military purposes. They didn't exist before. Now they exist on this level. They can be used in war. And so what they decided to do was they were going to find a way. What is the energy that is going to move the airplanes and the cars? And that's where you get the culprit for why we are in the position we are today in this concept we call the Middle East. The culprit is a man by the name of Thomas Lawrence, also known as Lawrence of Arabia. He was a double agent. And while he was helping the Arabs and everybody thought he was their friend, he was also bringing intel to the British. And so this is where you have this concept of fossil fuels and the energy that comes up out of the ground that is going to fuel the airplanes. It's going to fuel all of the different things that are going on now. World War I is now ablaze. Now guess what? Because of the airplane, Italy can get into Ethiopia. They couldn't do it man to man. They couldn't do it hand to hand. They did it by dropping bombs because they knew they could not handle the Ethiopian Nubian warrior. They knew that. They had already been whipped out of Ethiopia. And so what the Italian fascists began to do was to attack Ethiopia. And this is where you're going to have all this confrontation going into the 1930s and, going into the World War II is going to happen. And it's going to happen because of the first thing that started World War II was not Germany, and it was not Japan. It was Italy. If you think that Adolf Hitler did some bad things to black people and to people of Jewish faith and to Catholics, if you think that they got it bad, first of all, let me put the concept of what the Italians did under Mussolini and others to a side. Just what Leopold II of Belgium did to Africans. Millions of Africans were murdered by the Belgians. Make no mistake about that. Murdered wholesale. So when we're looking at the atrocities, it's not just Adolf Hitler. They all were like that. And what the Italians did in Ethiopia, family, it is horrific. And I know I don't want to dwell there because I just want to get the story to you so that you can understand the totality of the story that I'm trying to tell you. Because this is holistic history. Holistic history is when you bring all of the episodes together to understand what happened. But more importantly, what happened before that to make that happen. And then what happened after that because that happened. So there is a continuity between the past, the present, and the future. So holistically you can understand. But more importantly, African folk used to teach what's called corrective history, which means that what could have happened that would have avoided, for instance, what could have happened after World War I that would have stopped World War II from occurring. That's what children should learn. Not just about the battles of the war. How can we never make this mistake again? It's obvious that we didn't learn this and we didn't teach this. And the evidence of it is Afghanistan. Because if we had learned our lesson from Vietnam, we would never have gone to Afghanistan. Mark Twain said, they say, history repeats itself. No, history don't repeat itself. Mark Twain said, history certainly does rhyme. We're in a different time now. Afghanistan is not Vietnam, but it is a rhyming poetry where the same thing happened, almost step for step, word for word. Here, the Italians invade Ethiopia. That started World War II. So once again, Africans are in the middle of things again, as we always are. And then Germany, and then Japan with China, Germany with Europe, Italy with Africa, specifically Ethiopia. And as we spoke about Adolf Hitler, he rose to power at a time that when he was put in prison in the 1920s, that's when he wrote his book, Mein Kampf, My Challenge, My Struggle. And the deepest part of Adolf Hitler was that he resented, because W.E.B. Du Bois, family, we got to go back for a moment. W.E.B. Du Bois encouraged African American people to be part of the war. William Leo Hansberry, who I wrote my first book on, went into World War I in 1917, 1918, 1919. America didn't want to get involved in the war. But then they got involved with the war, not because they wanted to, but because money was being made. And they wanted in on some of the cash. But in African Americans going to war in World War I and going to Europe, it's an interesting thing. When you go to Europe, it's not like America. Very different. Same, but different in certain ways. Because Africans believe, it's hard for us to realize this, but we saved the world in World War I and World War II. But when Africans went to war in World War I and also the Caribbean islands, of the British and the French, Jamaica, parts of Haiti, parts of the French-speaking, English-speaking, Spanish-speaking community, went to war. And when they went to Europe to fight, they were beloved by the people. And they were so beloved by the people, some black folks said, do I really want to go back? Look at how these people treat me here. Now, I don't know if they love me, but they certainly treat me a lot different. I can come in restaurants and eat. When I'm eating, they come and they thank me for helping them fight these evil forces. So for them, why not stay? And so many did. Some married, became part of the society. They were in Germany, they were in France, they were in UK, United Kingdom. They were in Belgium, they were all over. That pissed Adolf Hitler off. Adolf Hitler felt sick to his stomach looking at black people in Europe. And that's why I said the other day, the African American people that stayed in Europe were the people that Adolf Hitler was targeting. That's what his movement was based on, was the eradication of melanated people in Europe. And that's when he started his new race. He did not start a religion. His problem was not with Catholicism. His problem was with black people. And in so doing, he started what is now called the Aryan race. Hold on now. Let me pull you back in history for a minute. I'm going to stick a pin there. I'm going to take you back now. Let me take you back now to the 300s AD. to a black bishop named Arius. Now, family, I ask you, please don't believe a word I say. I can give you research. There is a book. It's titled Blacks Who Died for Jesus by Mark Hyman, Hyman. He has a chapter on Bishop Arius. Don't believe me. You'd be shocked to believe that the first Perpetua Tertullian and St. Cyprian, the first martyrs of the Christian church, they were all black. The church, the real church that we know of, came directly out of parts like Alexandria in Egypt. You know, when you think of all of the different, like St. Augustine of Hippo, he was a black man. They're not going to tell you that, but he was. The early Christian church was black. It was the Amen priesthood. But I digress. Let me get back. Arius was a black bishop. Now let me tell you how deep this is. See, this is why I wrote Spirituality Before Religions and Shabaka stuff. Because I didn't want to argue with religions. I just wanted to show you where the scripture came from. Up until 500 AD, Imhotep was considered to be Jesus the Christ. He was looked upon as the Savior. From the Romans, the Greeks changed his name to Asclepius. Imhotep, the sage of the third dynasty. And when they developed the structure of their faith system, it didn't evolve for hundreds of years after the so-called birth of Jesus the Christ. Christianity just didn't exist. Because we're born into it, we think it was always here, but it wasn't always there. And the early church, particularly the Ethiopian Coptic church, the perspective of the African towards Christianity was that God the Father and God the Son were of the same substance. They were of the same thing. They were of God and they were of a human. Let me put it to you another way. Bishop Arius taught that humans, each human was God having a human experience because we were of the substance of God. There was no God outside here, and we were the children. The child and the father, the child and the mother was the same substance. In the 300s, the church was at war. You had the Eastern Orthodox and you had the Western Orthodox. And they were at war with each other. And an emperor by the name of Constantine decided to have a meeting. And the place was going to be at Nicaea, which today, Constantinople, the concepts, you're dealing with Istanbul, Turkey.